Okay, so welcome back. Now we're starting a new class. We are continuing in our Tanya. This is the first part of chapter 11. We're going to do that for half an hour. And then we're going to start a new course also in this class that is called the Sefirot, because we're counting the Sefirot, the Omer, from the second day of Pesach till Shavuot. So we are going to do each week, we're going to do a Sephira. Today, we're going to do 2 Sefirot. Okay, so we're gonna start with the Tanya. So the Tanya, we know that the whole premise of the Tanya is that inside of us, there's a battle going on because we have 2 souls. We have a divine soul that is a piece of God. And somebody is asking me right now, why do we have Jewish guilt? Is that part of being Jewish? I said, yes, very much. Because we have that divine soul. We know that there's a higher truth. We know that we can give even more of ourselves. We know that we can go the higher road. We know that we can be selfless. And then there's an animal soul, because that's what the divine soul really came to train, to educate, to guide, and to teach our animal to transcend our basic animalistic instincts, okay? But who we really are is a big chunk of divinity. So that's where the Jewish guilt comes, because if we don't know that there's something higher, if there's something better, if there's an ultimate truth, then there's no guilt, right? And that's where all the confusion is happening right now in the world and in our campuses, because right and wrong has been erased, right? And they're trying to write their new history, and they're trying to write their new values. But we know that there's ultimate values. We know that there's God, and there's godly values, and there's a right and there's wrong, and there's truth and there's untruth, and there's such a thing, right? So this is what we have to grapple with, not only outside of us, but in ourselves. Okay, so chapter 10, the chapter that we finished before Pesach, was about the tzaddik. There's books in the back, I think. There's a Tanya book there. And the tzaddik is a person that has totally transformed upper shelf on your left, upper shelf, yeah, on your left, on your left, on your left, on your left. Yeah, that's a Tanya. Yeah. So the tzaddik has totally transformed their animal soul. He hasn't just domesticated. He has actually transformed it to actually want the same thing that the divine soul wants, which is just the agenda of whatever Hashem wants from me. We set out our day, right? And we can have plan A, but then plan B plays itself out, right? I could have wanted many things when I woke up, right? I thought I was going to have so much time to pray, and I was like, oh, it's going to be quiet. And before the baby wakes up, I'm going to pray and this. You know what? Hashem, plan B. So plan B is whatever Hashem wants it to be, and to realize that, right? The quicker we realize it, the happier we're gonna be. So the tzaddik has totally taken and transformed his animal, that whatever plan B is, whatever Hashem wants, that's what it wants. Okay, so that's chapter 10, and it's really like an oasis in the whole Tanya, because it's the only chapter that really talks about the tzaddik, right? If we're not in that category, then there's no more use for us to study about it, because it's just nice to know that they exist, but that's not my portion. And my portion is continuing an inner battle every single moment of the day. When we sit down to eat, what am I gonna eat? How am I gonna eat it? Why am I eating, right? And the purpose of life, and it's a constant battle with us. Okay, chapter 11, in contrast with the tzaddik, it's gonna talk about the Rasha. Now, mind you, because this whole book, the Tanya, is called the book of the Benoni, the middleman, the middle guy. Okay, so there's 3 main characters in the Tanya. There's a tzaddik, the one that has totally transformed your animal. Then there's the rasha, that sometimes the animal gets the best of him. And we're going to see that there's two categories in the rasha. In the rasha, it just takes, just to be in that category, it's like, sometimes I have lost my cool. Sometimes I speak lashon hara. Sometimes I get depressed. Sometimes, that's all it takes. So we're not seeing, we see that the Tanya has its own dictionary. It's not like when we think of the rasha, we think, oh my gosh, a serial killer, right? That's a rasha. No, in the definition, in the dictionary of the Tanya, the rasha just means a person that sometimes the animal is the one that conquers them in thought, in speech, and in action. That's all it takes. Now, there's very many categories of rasha or reshaim, right? So there's the incomplete rasha, which is, it's sometimes I lost my cool. Sometimes I lost my faith. Sometimes I got depressed. Sometimes. And then what happens? Then I have remorse. Then my divine soul gets strength. And I say, I shouldn't act like that. I shouldn't lose my cool. I shouldn't talk bad. I shouldn't scream at the child. I shouldn't, So what happens? Then we have remorse. Then we do teshuvah, right? And then we say, I'm a composed individual. I'm mature. I can dominate it, right? And then another thing happens, something comes our way, a car crosses us while we're driving, or somebody says something not nice to us. And then what happens? Again, we lose our cool. So the Talmud tells us something very interesting. The Talmud says the road to hell is filled with people that are doing teshuvah. You're like, I'm sorry, I should have been better. I'm sorry, I should be better. And then I fall again. This time I'm not gonna, it's interesting because the people closest to us, our family, those are the ones that is sometimes the hardest to get along, right? How come I can be so nice to my friends? I can be so polite. I can speak nicely. I can be composed. I can look good. And sometimes the people closest to us, they get the worst of us, right? They get the worst of us. It's like, I'm an optimistic person. I speak nicely, and sometimes, oh my gosh, 11 o'clock at night, don't speak to me. Don't speak to me. Leave me alone. So what happens then, that when we're tired, when somebody is near you all the time, right? It's different when you have to get dressed and you go to lunch for an hour and a half and to be nice and polite and think what every word that you're gonna say, it's you're in control. But when it's 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, right? And the same person has been with you, many hours of the day for many days. It's Pesach or whatever it is, we have had like Yom Tov 2 days, straight. And then I lose my cool, or I don't speak so nicely, or I say something that maybe I shouldn't. So that tells us what's happening inside of us. It tells us, I'm not a tzaddik. I didn't transform the animal. The animal is very much alive. But when we're tired or we're fed up or some situation arises, the animal soul gets the best of me. So then that's why it says the road to hell is filled with people saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. I lost my cool. I shouldn't have spoken that way. And then we get up again. So that's the incomplete tzaddik. So who's the complete tzaddik? Chapter 11 is going to tell us. The complete tzaddik is the one that no longer has any remorse. They no longer have any remorse. I lied once. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I lied twice. I lied 3 times. By the 10th time, I almost believe my lies. or maybe I believe my lies. So that's why it says about Paro, the first 5 plagues, he had freedom of choice, right? And then what does it say? That after the 5th plague, Hashem took away from him his freedom of choice. Did Hashem take away the freedom of choice of Paro? Because it says that Hashem is always open to teshuvah. Hashem did not take away Paro's freedom of choice. Paro took away from himself his freedom of choice. Because when you go against God one time, and you go against God another time, and you do what's wrong the 3rd time and 4th time and 5th time, what happens is that you grow a callus. You yourself get a callus in your own soul that you no longer realize what is right and what is wrong. And so it was himself, it was Paro, by being arrogant, by being obstinate, right? That he himself could no longer do teshuvah. Now that's an oxymoron, because teshuvah, the gates of teshuvah are always open. So when it says he could no longer do teshuvah, means it became hard for him to do teshuvah. Teshuvah is always available. Just I mentioned in class, like right before Pesach, a son of mine calls me, a friend of him, or supposed to be a friend of his, he was telling me just the last night, this friend, he should have told me something, but he didn't tell me something. And I feel so bad that my friend is not behaving like a friend. I said, you should take up the phone and you should tell your friend, I needed you. I need you right now. And if you really are my friend, you should get on the phone and say, how are you? I don't know, Mom. I don't know if I can do that. I said, fine. But, it's worse that to hold it in. It's worse that you feel bad, and you feel bad about your friend. And maybe your friend has no idea what's going on. So the next day, my son calls me. He was like on the phone, like 10 o'clock in the morning. Mom, you won't believe. You won't believe. We had that conversation last night. And I walk out of my apartment. I don't know if it was at night or day. And who is in front of me? Who is in that street? That person, that friend. He never is here. He doesn't live here. He was there. And I said, okay, I guess this is my chance. And I woke up to my friend. And I said, I really needed you at that time. And I would have appreciated a phone call. I would have appreciated that you should be there for me. And his friend said, I'm really sorry. I didn't really realize. I didn't think. You want to do teshuvah? Hashem's going to put the opportunity right in front of you. If you really want to do teshuvah, that friend or whatever, you're going to go to Publix in the aisle. That's where you're going to find them. And it's Hashem telling you, it's your chance. Come on, here they are. You can do teshuvah right now, right? But if we are obstinate, then what happens is it becomes much harder. Now, how do we know? Because Paro refused to let the people go, right? So Hashem has to send all the plagues and kill all the firstborn, right? So we could say that Paro was a real Russia, right? Yet, what happens when they cross the Red Sea and all the Egyptian soldiers go into the sea? We know, Mikamocha b'nei Hashem. Paro is drowning. Paro was the whole cause of, this terrible slavery in Egypt, all that. He's drowning. Let him drown, right? Hashem doesn't want to kill the Rashaim. Hashem wants teshuvah. Come back. Come back to what you really should be. He's in the bottom of the sea. He's swallowing water. And he says, who is like Hashem? Who is like Hashem? Now I recognize Hashem. And what does Hashem do to Paro? He saves him. He saves him from the bottom of the Red Sea and makes him king of Nineveh. The story of Jonah, the whale, they go to Nineveh. It's a non-Jewish city. And Jonah has to say to the city, in a few days, if you don't do teshuvah, Hashem's going to destroy the city. What does it say in that story? The first one that to do teshuvah was the king. This was Paro. Because he did teshuvah, the rest of the city did teshuvah, Hashem didn't punish them. So a total Russia is a person that they themselves have put themselves in a callous state because they have persisted in going against Hashem, in making their animal their voice. You know, all these protests in the universities. You wonder, do these people really believe what they're saying? Do they really understand? No, they say free Palestine, you know, you're invaders, do they really believe their lies? Because it's a lie, right? So we have to know that no, I don't think in the bottom of it, they don't really believe their lies. But okay. All right. So that's what chapter 11 is about. We already did it. Okay. So 160 in the bottom. One is opposite the other, means Hashem has made a world where there's a balance. For every divine soul, there will be an animal soul, and they're both in us, and they're always in a balance. If I refine myself, if I activate the muscles of my divine soul, if I'm not a tzaddik, I have to remember all the time, my animal soul is also refining itself. It's not gonna come to me. I'm about to teshuva already, thank God, many years. It's not gonna come to Vivian and say, Vivian, go to Burger King and eat a hamburger. Because my animal soul is gonna know, I'm not gonna listen to you, right? But maybe it's gonna tell me, Vivian, you already waited 5 hours and 55 minutes between meat and milk. What's 5 minutes? And the pizza just came out of the oven. It's hot and tasty. You know, right now on Sundays, I have to recommend to you. On Sundays, they have this farmer's market here on Surfside. They have, I told you, I saw you. They have the sourdough pizza, kosher, halal Israel. I'm telling you, I don't love pizza, and I haven't eaten pizza in a long time. This is a great pizza. So the pizza's coming out, you know, the cheese is melting. My Yetzer Hara will tell me, maybe it's already almost. You only have 5 minutes to go, maybe 3, maybe 2 minutes. Because the animal inside is also refining, because Hashem has made one opposite the other. Okay, that's why one of the Rebbe says that to a chassid, to a pious person, their animal soul comes dressed in a shtreimel, comes dressed as a chassid. Okay, it's not gonna come out, you know, bang, you know, eat non-kosher, do this transgression openly, but in a nuance. This is not really lashon hara what you're gonna say. It's just the whisper of lashon, right? Okay. One is the opposite of the other. The Rasha who knows good is the antithesis of the tzaddik who knows evil. This means that the good that is in the Rasha's divine soul, which is in his brain and the right part of his heart, okay. So now they're telling us that the good, the animal, the divine soul rests in the brain. This is what it uses. This is the seat of the divine soul in us, in the brain, and in the right part of the heart. Okay, is subservient and nullified. Okay, to okay, I'm gonna skip this a little bit. Okay, this rank, third paragraph. This rank of the Rasha is subdivided into myriads of degrees. So there's many categories of Rashaim. There could be a Rasha that only sins in action. There could be a Rasha that only sins in speech. There could be a Rasha that only sins in his thoughts, and we don't know. So in speech and action, they look perfect, right? But in his thoughts, maybe he's having evil thoughts, impure thoughts. We don't know, all right? So there's many categories. Also, it's frequency. How often does a person transgress? How often does a person allow the animal in them to conquer them. So that makes different categories of Reshaim, okay? Just as the rank of tzaddik who knows evil is subdivided into myriads of degrees, so it's talking about the incomplete tzaddik, with respect to the nullification within him of the evil to good, evil being in the dictionary of Tanya, it's just ego, okay? So too are there numerous subdivisions within the rank of the Rasha who knows good, okay? The difference between these myriad sublevels, right, different categories, is in the quantity, how much a person allows the animal to express itself, the extent, and the quality of the nullifications of that. Okay, the quantitative difference between one Rasha who knows good and another is indicated by whether the good is merely outweighed by a majority of evil. Okay, so it's like how much does a person sin? You know, how often, in what manner? Okay. There is 162. There is one Rasha in whom the subservience and nullification of good to evil are exceedingly minor. It's just minor little things that a person does, right? It could be even in faith. It could be, you know, I don't have perfect faith in a moment. It could be, I'm not stealing, but you know, I went into a shop and I made believe like I want to buy. So but I had no intention of buying. So this is like stealing the time of the salesperson, stealing their illusion that they're gonna make a sale, right? If I have no intention of buying something and I just have half an hour to spare and I want to go into Tiffany's or whatever, I should say to the salesperson, I'm just looking. Please, can you show me this? But I'm really just looking today. So the salesperson, I'm not stealing their, how does it say, their time or their illusion to make a sale, right? Their desire, okay. So, and even these minor degrees are not permanent because it's not recurrent at frequent intervals. So it's just once in a while. Rather, only in frequent occasions does the evil being like the ego, prevail over the good, conquering the small cities. The small city is called our body, our mind, our speech, our action. This is called the small city. And so the divine soul and the animal are like two conquerors vying for a city, right? We see it in the world. We have Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, and we have the Jews conquering not only to have the land, but to have Torah in the land, to have the Torah law in the land, to have the real Jewish sovereignty over the land. And we have Hamas or the Arabs that want to conquer the land. And we see that they have two very different viewpoints of what they would accomplish in the land. Totally, right? Okay, so, okay, the body, all right, which as mentioned in chapter 9 is likened to a small city whose conquest is the objective of both the divine and animal souls. Furthermore, even when the evil being ego, okay, in the Tanya's dictionary, does conquer the body. If the ego is the animal, conquers the body, yet not all of the body falls under its dominion, but only a part of it. It's maybe only in thought, or maybe it's only in speech, only in action. It's like a part of me. Not all of me came into this domain of the animal, subjecting that part of the body to its discipline, its way of action, and causing it to be a chariot to the evil. So that's what happens. See, we all are, let's backtrack. When Moses came down from Sinai every time he spoke to the Jewish people, Moses was being just a chariot. He was just like my cellular phone. He was just being a conduit, right? It even says that Moses was like the throat of Hashem. Hashem was speaking through Moses. Moses was a human being. So Hashem was utilizing Moses' body in order to transmit whatever the will of God was, to put it into words and to speak to the Jewish people. Okay, that's why it's like the lowering of this sanctity and making it accessible to us. Okay, so Moses was being really a chariot. Why a chariot? Because a chariot doesn't think. We have the wagon driver, right? And the wagon driver, with his will, he will will the chariot wherever he wants. He wants to go to the right, he wants to go to the left, he wants to go far, he wants to go close. And the chariot doesn't think. It's like my car. Like a car doesn't think. The driver is the one conducing. The highest privilege for a Jew is to be a chariot for God. That's it. That Hashem we are, that's why on Simchat Torah, like a pipe. Yeah. Because what do we do on Simchat Torah? Simchat Torah, we take the Torah and we dance with it, right? Why are we dancing with it? Simchat Torah, we should read from it, right? But we read very little and we dance. Because we're saying, Hashem, we're going to be your feet. We're going to be your hands. We're going to be your joy in this world. We're going to be your chariot. That's really a privilege. That's the highest privilege that a Jew has, okay? To utilize all of me, all of my body, all of the abilities I have, mental and physical, everything, to carry out Hashem's will, okay? So what happens when a person, because Hashem made it that we have two souls, when my animal, which is totally antagonistic to the will of Hashem, because the animal thinks about itself. The animal wants to eat, I want to drink, I want to sleep, I want. When the animal conquers me, then my body becomes a chariot to my ego. A chariot we're going to be. But to whom? To the King of Kings or to my basest instincts? Okay. All right. So this is where we're going to finish here, 162. So subjecting it, that part of the body, to its discipline and causing it to be a chariot to the evil or to the ego, okay? As subservient to the ego as is a chariot to its driver, and further causing that part of the body to serve as a garment, wherein one of the animal souls, three garments will be cloth. So what happens is that the soul is not tangible. The soul is just energy. But the soul uses my thought to express thought. It uses my speech to express itself in words. And it uses my action in order to do action. So that's called the garments of the soul. It's like the clothing. So when I allow, that's why it says when a person loses its cool, it's like idolatry. Because in the moment I lose my cool, I'm saying plan B shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen to me. I get very, very upset and I'm gonna scream, right? So in that moment, it's my animal that's conquering me and saying this shouldn't happen. But Hashem is clearly saying this is exactly what is supposed to happen. Anyways, I'm gonna leave the Tanya because I really want to start half of this class on the Sefirot. And I don't want to, I said we're going to start a new course, and we are reading the Sefirot we're studying the Sefirot, and we're focusing on each Sefira, which are 49 Sefirot, from Pesach to Shavuot. Okay, what are the Sefirot? Okay, so Sefirot, the word Sefirot is from the word sapir. No, excuse me, sapir, yes, which is sapphire, which is like shiny. And it's also from the word sipur, which is story. So the Sefirot is the story of our soul, that when we understand the story of our soul, we can make it shine like a sapphire. So I have here a computer, okay? I am almost technologically illiterate. This is not my computer, okay? But if it was my computer, I would only know how to turn it on. I would know perhaps how to send emails, how to receive emails, and maybe go into the internet. But as we know, this has so much more inside, right? It has so many more components. It can do so many more things, right? But if I don't know about it, I am shortchanging myself. I can't utilize all the potential that is in here. Yes? Are we all together? The same concept applies to our soul. Our soul has many components. The more I understand how my soul works, what is it made out of, I'm going to be able to activate it, utilize it, maximize it, okay? And that's the idea of counting the Omer, because the Omer relates to each Sephira, each day of the Omer. And it gives us a chance to discover that we all have these Sefirot. So what are the Sefirot? So Hashem is one, right? It's all we can understand. Yeah. Hashem is one. Hashem is called Yachid. He's the only, he's everything. But Hashem, when he creates the world, he wants to make a colorful, visionary world. He wants everybody to have a different perspective. Everybody likes something different, right? Two persons look at the same thing, even husband and wife. And we a situation, and we both see it differently, right? Somebody was telling me when they made the encampments in the universities, right? And they were telling me, oh, this is terrible, this is horrible. I said, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Why is it wonderful? Because all of this has been brewing for decades inside the universities. Very hush hush. We haven't understood the dimension of what is going on in the universities, right? The devastation, the infiltration that has happened in our universities. And now it's coming out in the open. When they went into what was that hall in Colombia? Hamilton. So this person was saying, oh, horrible. Said, wonderful. They broke the windows. Horrible. Wonderful. Amazing. Great. The world should see. We have to see the evil that this is, the corruption, the distortion of reality. As Manis Friedman once said, he does holistic medicine, said when a body is sick inside, it's very dangerous because it's eating up the body. When the sickness comes out and manifests itself on the skin, it's wonderful because it's like it's gonna like have a chance to leave the body. What we're seeing now is the eruption on the skin level. It's evident to everybody, so it's wonderful. So, but everybody has a different perspective. How could this be? If Hashem is one, how could everybody has a different perspective? So here comes in the Sefirot. Hashem wants to make a multi-dimensional world, and he divides his energy into 10 energies. And he gives them to us. We all have these 10 energies. That's why we have 10 fingers. The world that Hashem has made is decimal. It's a decimal world, okay? And we all have these 10 energies, but Hashem gave each one of us different proportions of this energy. So I have in my kitchen, we do a very Chabad Pesach in my house. So the condiments are very limited. We use olive oil, other kinds of oil, kosher salt, sea salt, onions, carrots, wine, basic ingredients. No pepper, no garlic. I mean, it's like basic. But you have to see how many flavors we could create. It was like amazing. We created amazing things with these basic ingredients. The Sefirot are our basic ingredients. We all have them. Each one has a different proportion because that's how we create different dishes. This one you put more onion, and this one you put less onion, you put more lime, and you put less lime to this one, and it creates different flavors, okay? And we all have the 10 Sefirot, but in a different proportion, okay? So why do we study about it? Because now we can understand, what do I have? And it could be used for the good, for the not good, and how to work on it, okay? So Hashem is one, divides himself into 10, that's the Sefirot, okay? We all have them, but there's one caveat. There's one a caveat is like there's something in the system. It's like there's something, a premise that we have to keep, that we have to overcome, because we are not standing on firm earth. We are like in a seesaw. There are these balance balls in the gym, and you stand, and it's like you have to make an effort in order to stand straight, because you can either go into either side. Okay, what is the seesaw that we're standing on? Because Hashem didn't give us one soul. He gave us two souls. So what does that mean? If the Sefirot are our natural resources, but we don't have one soul, we have two. For every Sefira that we have, who's gonna utilize it? And that's why it is like two conquerors vying for a city. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Okay, so first Sefira. So there's 10 Sefirot. I talked about 10 Sefirot, okay? And we're gonna this is an introduction. So there's 3 intellectual, and there's 7 that are emotional. And the intellectual Sefirot, they're called the father and the mother. And the 7 emotional are called the children. Why? Because intellect gives birth to emotion. So every day we go to sleep, right? And we go to sleep and we wake up and we're like, very nice, we're waking up. And then what do we do right now, all the Jewish people? The first thing that we do in the morning, we take our phone and see what's going on in Israel, right? Everybody's doing that, right? Check, every second of the day we have it. What's going on in Israel? And then we see what's going on in Israel. And then what happens? And we see this happen and that happen. And then what happens? The intellect gives birth to emotion. So I get sad, I get worried, I could, if we have victory, we get very happy, right? The more we know, the more emotion we're gonna generate. So the three Sefirot are called the father and the mother, and the intellectual Sefirot, and then the emotional Sefirot are called the children. Okay, so one more. Before the intellect, there's one more Sephira that's called Keter. So Keter is the crown. So the crown is not in the head, but it sits above the head. Okay? All right. So look, I made these many years ago, and I asked them to pass the office, and Yisrat Hashem next week, they're going to have a copy of each of these for you. So I'm going to show you. In this first page, this is what I represented as Keter. So what is Keter? Keter is what is in the beginning. Why did Hashem create the world? Okay, so what do we see here? We see a big lollipop. So what is a lollipop? We say, oh, sugar, right? We like it. It's pleasure, right? At least for our generation. The new generation, I know these mommies are very healthy. My grandchild of 2 years doesn't get any sugar. It's amazing. I'm like, tip my hat to the mother. But you know, in my generation, when we saw a lollipop, that was a good thing, right? Okay, so maybe I should change it now for like almond butter or something like that. Okay, so why did Hashem create the world? Because it gives him pleasure. Now Hashem doesn't need anything. He created in himself that the creation of the world should give him pleasure. What's that to me? Why is that important for me? Because that's the first premise of creation. So we could see here, there's like an atom, and inside the atom, there's a nucleus. That means if we could see spirituality through a microscope in the atomic level, we would see that the nucleus is composed of pleasure. What's that to me? Why is that important? Because that's telling us that in life, because I am made up in the atomic level, spiritually, of pleasure, that means that I'm always looking for pleasure. Now, looking for pleasure could be two things, right? Either I could go outside of myself and look for pleasure and look for pleasure and look for pleasure, right? And so I'm going to run to Bal Harbor and buy the latest bag, and that's going to give me pleasure. But what's going to happen to that pleasure tomorrow? I need another pleasure, right? Another bag, and another new things and another new clothes. Or maybe I go on a trip and then I have to go on another trip as soon as I come back because I need a pleasure, and I have to find this guy or that woman or that. I need, or because pleasure is at the atomic level, maybe I could find the pleasure in what I'm doing right now. So this morning, I had to wake up my little 2-year-old granddaughter and change her diaper and take her to the bathroom. And now she reads even in the bathroom. So I had to read her 2 books in the bathroom. It's like... So in that situation, her name, Rachel, like my mom. So when we understand that we naturally seek pleasure, maybe I could find the pleasure in sitting by herself, by her side, as she in the bathroom, training herself and reading her the book. Can I find that pleasure? If I can find the pleasure in what I am doing, I will become a very happy person. Because we seek pleasure. We need pleasure. Now, pleasure can be physical, it can be spiritual, right? But pleasure it is. And we're always seeking pleasure.
Just use one of the recipes.
Different kinds of pleasure. Let me just mute this. Okay. All right. So our Keter, our crown, is actually composed of 3 parts. It's like if you go to a jewelry store and they tell you, this is a golden crown. It's a golden ring. But it has 3 parts. It's 18 karat gold on the inside, but it's on the outside, it's titanium or platinum, and then it has diamonds on the outside. Okay, our Keter, our crown, has 3 parts. The innermost part is pleasure. Okay, whatever my pleasure is, that becomes my desire. So desire is the second layer. Why? Because if my pleasure is a lollipop, my desire is I want a lollipop. If my pleasure is an ice cream, my desire is I want an ice cream because that gives me pleasure, right? If my pleasure is to spend time with my grandchildren, my desire is I want to spend time with my grandchildren, right? So desire is a second covering. And what's the third? The third covering of our crown is the will, because whatever is my pleasure becomes my desire, and then it becomes my to-do list. Now I have to go and get the ice cream. Now I have to go and get the lollipop. Now I have to go and spend time with my grandchildren. Okay? So that is our Keter, all right? So, but we said, we're not standing on terra firme. We're not standing on firm earth. We have 2 souls inside, right? So what happens to my animal soul? We said, we naturally desire and seek pleasure. The pleasure of the animal soul is very different from the divine soul. The pleasure of the animal soul is instant gratification. I want it and I want it now, right? The pleasure of the divine soul can be transient, can be a spiritual pleasure, can be to give pleasure not to myself, to Hashem, can be altruistic. That's a pleasure. That's why the Rambam tells us, the whole Rambam tells us, when you teach a child mitzvot, when they're very little, give them a candy, because they want, their animal is very, very strong. So they want the reward right now, or give them, clap their hands, wow, you did it, right? So they feel so good because it's instant gratification. When they're a little older, give them money. A little older, give them clothes, give them a car, whatever. Hopefully what? Hopefully when they get older, they're gonna tap into the pleasure of the divine soul. And they're gonna do mitzvot, not because of what's coming to me, but I wanna give pleasure to Hashem. I wanna do what is right? We get it? So there's 2 different kinds of pleasure, there's 2 different kinds of desire, and 2 different kinds of will. Okay, so that's Keter. Are we there? Okay, so now we're gonna come into this first internal sefira, which is called Chochma. Okay, so in the Sefirot, which are 10, there's right, there's left, and there's center. And all of the ones that are on the right side, they all have a common denominator. All of the ones on the left side have a common denominator. And all of the ones in center have a common denominator. Okay? All of the Sefirot on my right is all about outward, opening up. All of the ones on my left are all about inward. Okay? And center is all about truth or objectivity. Okay? It's like a balance. And they all come into this. It's either one column, the second, or the third. Okay? So this is, we said there's 3 intellectual Sefirot, which are the energies we have. This is the first one. This is Chochma. So what do we have in Chochma? In Chochma, we have something that says new. So from Chochma, I open up myself to the unknown. So when the Jewish people, were in Egypt, right? We talked about this in Pesach. And we went into the desert, right? With just carrying matzot. What was that? There was a big leap of faith. That was bitachon. Hashem, you're going to take care of us. We don't even know for how long, where. We didn't know. At night, there was a pillar of fire. In the morning, there was a pillar of clouds. And we really didn't know where we were going. We were like a little child. A little child doesn't know where they're going. A little child just holds the mommy's hand, right? That's Chochma. Because I am just willing to open up myself to the unknown. But I am seeking that which is new. That's why the new label attracts us. When we go into the supermarket and we see the detergents, and it's the same detergent I've bought all my life, but one says new. Right? It's the same thing, the same Tide, free, whatever. One says new. Which one do you buy? New. Right? You go buy a watch. You go buy a car. The new one. Why? Why do we buy the new one? I like the old one. Why do we buy the new one? Must be better. There must be something improved, right? We expect that. That is the Chochma in us. And as we can see, we said everybody has a 10 Sefirot, but in different proportions. There's some people that constantly want something new, right? A new job, a new friend, a new girlfriend, a new clothing, a new adventure. I need to know a new food to taste, a new restaurant, a new. Everything has a new show, everything, a new book. That is a thirst from their Chochma. It's the manifestation of their Chochma. It's a person that has a lot of Chochma. It's that thirst for new information. Just something new. Okay? And there's some of us that don't have a lot of Chochma. The 3 friends that I have all my life, there's enough. I don't need to make new friends. The 3 things I eat every day for breakfast is the same breakfast for 20 years. That's good enough. The restaurant I go to, I always order the same plate. That's good enough. No. That's a manifestation that they have very little Chochma. So ideas, because you're just opening up to the world of ideas, that's Chochma. Creativity, Chochma. Dreams. In a dream, anything can happen. You can fly, you can be flying. There could be dead people that are alive. Things happen. Why? Because it's part of Chochma. Anything can happen. So we can see that the mind of an artist is a mind of Chochma, because it's creativity. Picasso, he was a first in his modern art, right? Because it's this Chochma. He was opening himself up to the unknown. Okay? So, we can see also not only the new, Chochma is also the light bulb. Why? Because I could have a problem, right? I have a problem. I don't know how to do this. I don't know, I have a luggage. I only have 50 pounds to huh?
Yeah, ice cream.
To be an ice cream?
Chochma would be an ice cream. Like everybody likes ice cream.
Chochma can be an ice cream.
No, because we're talking about pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, pleasure. Yeah, that's okay.
Every like everybody likes ice cream or yogurt.
Okay. Okay. So I have a 50-pound luggage. I have 70 pounds and I need to pack. And I'm like, how am I gonna do it? I don't know how to do it, right? All of a sudden, you get a flash. I know how to do it. I'm gonna tell you a story, a real story that happened to one of my children. He has a lot of chochma. He's entering a flight, and the flight hostess says to her, the flight attendant says to him that his luggage is too heavy and he can't take it in. And he had, I think, a connecting flight, and so he didn't have time for the hand luggage to go. So what did he do? What was the chochma of that moment? He started to take out the clothes from his luggage and put it on himself.
Certain occasions, I said, what if I was 10 pounds heavier?
Right.
Right.
What's the
Right.
Right.
Overweight. You're all overweight,
Yeah.
But you looked at me and she said,
I heard of an airline that's gonna charge according to weight. Yeah. Okay. So
you got away.
Yeah, he put on the clothes. That's a moment of chochma. That's a moment of chochma. So that's like a light bulb. Oh my God. Because it comes from the unknown. I didn't have this thinking before. A new thought came in. So what is the premise to activate chochma? You need humility. If I think I know it all, don't tell me something new. Don't tell me another way of looking at it. Don't. You know what? Okay, you're not gonna get chochma. It's not gonna come in because chochma comes from the outside, right? Hashem says, where there's a person with his ego, he knows it all. I can't be there. A person that is humble, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna solve it. All of a sudden, an idea. That's a moment of chochma. But chochma is we're gonna see, it's like the baby opening up their mouth. So I'm telling you about my 2-year-old child. She could literally eat all day if they would let her. It was like she could really open up her mouth and swallow everything, but they don't let her, okay? Why? Because when we open up our mouth, that is, I'm opening up to something that wasn't previously inside of me. This is a manifestation of chochma, okay? So that's why I put the Pac-Man. Because the game of the Pac-Man, what was it? The Pac-Man is just opening mouth and swallowing. It never gets fat. It never gets fat, and it never gets satisfied either. And that's chochma. The chochma in us is always seeking something new. Is always wanting something new, something that it didn't know. The thirst for knowledge. Why am I in class? Why? Because I want, tell me something that I don't know. Tell me a perspective that I didn't think about. Tell me this thirst, okay? Just the new, okay? And it won't get satisfied. So now we can understand there's a part of us that actually gravitates with the unknown. It gravitates with something that it didn't have previously. So what do we have Tevye here? Tevye is talking Fidro and Runas. So Tevye is talking to God, right? If I were a rich man, right? So what is Tevye doing? How is his head? His head is tilted upwards. When we're talking, when we're trying to think of something new, we go like this. How am I gonna do this? When we're trying to find our keys, which is something old, we're trying to remember, this is not Chochma. This is something old, I'm trying to remember. We go like this, like the thinker. Where are my keys? Where did I leave them? So it's super interesting. Rabbi Jacobson explains that Chochma takes place in one part of the brain. Bina, which is the opposite of Chochma, is remembering something old, takes part in a different part of the brain. And when I tilt my head this way, there's a little artery or vein that closes and actually allows the Chochma to open up. And when I tilt my head like this, that vein or artery actually opens and it allows remembering, Bina, to happen. And that's why we go like this when we're learning something, and we go like this when we're trying to remember. Huh? What is it called?
Pine gland.
Pine, pine gland. Thank you very much. Excellent. So here we go. Okay, so that's Tevye looking up for a moment of Chochma. God, talk to me, because Chochma is coming from outside of us. Okay.
I used to be forced.
I love it. Really? Okay. You afterwards you could explain it to me, because I love it. And now we have a lightning. Why a light? Because Chochma is like a flash. You know, the dark sky, all of a sudden, a lightning happens and you say, wow, that was amazing. And the person next to you says, can you describe it to me? It's like, but you say it was amazing. It was amazing. Can you draw it? I can't. But you said it was amazing. You saw it. Chochma doesn't last. Chochma is a moment of inspiration. That's why the new becomes old very quickly. It doesn't last. That's why even when we learn, you know, we go to a class and we say, wow, that was amazing. And a person asks you, so describe to me or tell me, what did the teacher say? I can't put it into words. I don't remember. Because it was just Chochma. There was no Bina of that. So it was just a moment of inspiration. I know it was amazing. I couldn't retain it. Because in Chochma, there's no retention. That's why it's like the Pac-Man. It's just opening up, opening up, opening up. So yes, that's writing down is a different part of us already. Yes, of course. Okay. So when we started to talk about Sefirot, we said the more we understand about ourselves, the more we can maximize and optimize our abilities. And now we can reflect. Some of us are always seeking something new, right? And some of us don't have that a lot of thirst for something new, right? But what new things are we seeking? I was watching a video commentary on the encampments, and this person, I can't remember his name, he's an influencer, and he was saying, why are you surprised with what's happening? The youth have no purpose in their lives. They don't have a mission, right? And all of a sudden, now they have sold to them that they have this passion. They have a passion, they have a mission. They don't even know what it's about. They don't really care. But it's something to live for because they have nothing. It's like a generation that is like empty. So this commentary was saying, why are we astounded that they have taken on all these youth, like the Hitler youth? Huh? They were getting paid? Yeah. The agitators or the people also, the students. Okay, but so it's you know, it's something new for them. It's something new. It's a moment of chochma. It's the thrill of this unknown, right? Oh, a new thing I'm doing. You know, I'm not just like going to class and 9 to 5. Now I'm like cheering and chanting and wearing these kefiyas or something. You know, being in the news, taking to. So the thing is, what is the chochma that we're looking for, right? And is it something that is even negative? Because we have an animal soul, and the animal soul can gravitate to thrills, you know, thrill seeking. Let me try this jumping off the cliff, you know, a dangerous relationship, substance abuse, you know, because it's also this thrill seeking. So from chochma, it's to open up myself, but what am I opening up myself to? And that's why, let's say today they're talking so much about parental control in all that is the internet, because part of the thrill of being in the internet is it's constantly new, a new person, a new thrill, a new program, but what are you opening up to? Because ideas that can come into you that maybe are not good for you. So in this opening up and this thirsting for, right, there has to be discernment constantly. And that's what we have to do in everything. Anyways, that's the chochma. I'm gonna leave it there for today. Okay, we did the Keter and we did the chochma today. All right, I want to continue on Wednesdays to do that. Hope you like it. All right.
Hi, thank you.
Thursday. Sorry, Wednesday is my Spanish class.
The Keter. Remember, when is the Keter, Vivian? When is the Keter? When we count the Omer?
No, the Keter is, let's say it's the basis before the Sefirot, which means that we are seeking pleasure in everything we do, and our pleasure becomes our desire, and our desire becomes our will. Okay, and that's why to be happy, that it is not pursuing what gives us pleasure, but rather it's to find pleasure in what we're doing.
Okay.
Right? Because we naturally crave pleasure. And that's why, let's say, even we could go backwards. We have a to-do list, right? Which is part of Keter on the outside. What gets done during the day the most? I have 10 things to do in a day, right? What I actually get done is basically the things that give me pleasure.
Yes.
And the things that don't give me pleasure, you know, it could be like, you know, going to the mail and sending a package back to return, or putting in order my, you know, I'll do it tomorrow. You know why? Because,
That's why we procrastinate.
Yes, unless I could find the pleasure. Like I could find the pleasure in not having to worry.
Yes.
Because that's a pleasure, you know, to have a clear head. So you know what? I'm going to send the package first, because that's going to give me pleasure. I'm going to go first to do the return package in the UPS or whatever, because the pleasure I'm going to find is that now I don't have to think about it. Right? So this all goes, this is like the foundation.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And that's why also it says, when the days that we write down what we have to do in a day, we get it more done. Right? Because it's like it's already writing, as you said, writing is already action. It's not just thought. Okay. Okay, ladies, welcome back. Here we are for another semester. Okay. Thank you. How was your Pesach?
Beautiful, thank God.
Yeah?
Beautiful. A
Are
lot
you in
of work.
Israel?
No, I was in Belgium with my parents and mother-in-law. My kids came just for 3 days, and thank God was beautiful. A lot of work, but I would start again tomorrow.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
That's
It was
true, huh?
quality time.
What about you?
I had my own program in my house.
Wow.
Bye, Susan. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a true, it's the same. It's a lot of work, but there's nothing else I would rather do.
Yes.
Would rather-
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you
Take care.
soon.
Wait, is somebody else here? Yeah, there's more people here. Margot, how are you, Margot? So I have to tell you both, my son Asher had a baby. The last
Ah,
day of Pesach. Oh, wait. Let me just take off the record.
so
Stop
I
recording.
so it's